of skating and watching the guys play war, we all turned in our skates and headed back to the cars for our ride home. As we approached Graceland, coming from the north on the highway, we could see the beautiful Christmas lights. Elvis turned into the driveway, and Uncle Travis opened the gate. After Elvis briefly spoke with Uncle Travis, we headed up the long driveway. "Graceland is so beautiful at night," I said. "Thank you, honey. I'm kind of proud of it myself." Elvis pulled the car in front of the front steps of Graceland. We got out of the car and walked up past the stone lions and through the white pillars. Graceland had this cozy Christmas feeling as you walked in. The glittering chandelier, the red drapery, and the great smells of Alberta's cooking, of food and cakes and all. Elvis stopped and looked at all the gifts that were under the tree. He looked at the pile and said, "When I was a kid, I stood in line downtown to get a charity sack of clothes and food and toys for Christmas. It surely looks like we've come from a long way." The next morning, Gladys had again asked for me to come and have breakfast with her. She asked me, "What would you like for me to fix for you?" I said, "Anything is fine for me." She cooked some bacon and some eggs, and of course she burnt it again, but I pretended not to notice. I fixed up my coffee and took a sip. "Elvis was reading the Bible to me after everyone left last night," I said. She smiled. "He loves that book. And he talked a long time before he finally fell asleep, which seems like only minutes ago. I knew you girls were up there talking to him for a while. I can see how you girls really take good care of him, and I can trust all of you." Minnie May came walking through the kitchen and prepared a plate of grain for the chickens, who were already waiting outside the back door. "I'm so glad you were able to come again for Christmas. Elvis is always wanting to shower me with minks and fancy things. All I really want is to have a grandchild that I could bounce on my knee." It was already getting dark out by the time Elvis woke up for his breakfast. Elvis had instructed Mac to go into Arkansas and pick up a whole truckload full of fireworks. As the guys went out back, having firework wars and using garbage can lids as a shield, we stayed inside and watched and hoped that nobody got hurt. Heidi looked out the window. "Look at those fools out there." I said, "I hope nobody gets hurt." Heidi replied, "It would serve them right." Heidi turned from the window and came over to talk. "What are you guys getting for Elvis? What do you get a guy who has everything for Christmas?" "What are you getting him, Arlene?" "Well, I picked up a shirt for him in Chicago. It's really nice. It's fabric, but it looks like leather. I think it'll look fantastic on him. He is the one person where the man makes the clothes instead of the clothes making the man. He looks great in everything he wears," said Heidi. "What did you get him, Francine?" "Well, I was planning on giving him a stuffed donkey." "A donkey?" said Heidi. Wait a minute. It's really cute, and he never got a stuffed donkey before. I hope he likes it. It's huge and really adorable." Just then, Uncle Travis came in with a big box filled with presents from people at the front gate. He put them down by the tree. I thought this would be a good time for me to walk back to Aunt Lorraine and Uncle Travis's house and get my present and put it under the tree. Elvis saw me coming back from the house with a present under my arm. "Is that for me?" "Yes, it's for you," I said, as I was pulling it away from Elvis's reaching hands. "And no shaking, squeezing, or poking," I said. He grabbed the gift with a grin. He started shaking it, squeezing it, and poking it. "Want me to guess what it is?" he said. "I want you to put it down." He once again started surveying all the gifts under the tree. He said, "I love Christmas," and walked out of the room singing.
Well, it's Christmas time, pretty baby, and the snow is falling on the ground.
And here it was, Christmas Eve, Elvis's mother came down to the kitchen early and saw me eating grits. I was putting a lot of sugar on them and salt and pepper on my eggs. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down at the table. "That's the funniest thing I've ever seen," she said. "What's that, Mrs. Presley?" "Sugar in your grits. I've never seen that in my life." Just then, Minnie May came walking into the kitchen and said, "Everyone's got their own way of doing things." And then she went to feed the chickens. Gladys then patted my hand and said, "I'm so glad your parents let you come down and spend Christmas with us. I love seeing a house full of people. I wish I could have all the people down at the gate come up too." The rest of the day was very restful. Towards the end of the day, people started getting ready for the evening. Some of Elvis's relatives started showing up and bringing food and baked goods. Alberta insisted on cooking for Elvis herself, and the house was filled with delicious aromas. Elvis was dressed to the T as he came down and mingled with all his guests. He was the most gracious host. He would quietly give out envelopes containing money as a special Christmas gift to everyone around him. From time to time, he looked in on his grandmother upstairs and said, "You coming down, Grandma?" "Yes, son," she said, "as soon as I get fixed up." "I love all my folks," he said to me, walking down the hall. "They can never be replaced." But he couldn't overcome the temptation to have fun with them either. One of his favorites was Uncle Vesta. He noticed him and he grinned. And then he took out of his pocket a little firework called a whistler, and he lit it with a cigar and dropped it quietly in the thick carpet behind his uncle, who was dressed beautifully that evening. "Oh no," I said. I jumped back away from them. The thing started howling and whistling. It startled poor Uncle Vesta, who skipped around and tried to get away from it, but the thing seemed to keep following him. Elvis laughed so hard that he collapsed into one of the dining room chairs as Uncle Vesta ran out of the back door. Elvis was like a joyful child. He started laughing all over again when Minnie May came down and said, "What was Vesta yelling about?" Elvis was very animated when he opened his gifts. There were beautiful jackets and silk scarves and gloves. But then he eyed a beautiful donkey behind the tree. Teasingly, he said, "There's only one person I know who would give me a jackass for Christmas. Right, Francine?" Francine blushed, and Elvis went over to her, lifted her chin, and said, "I love it, darling. It's wonderful." Then he picked up the package from me and said, "For me?" "For you," I said, and he ripped it open. He pulled the black leather shirt out of the package, smiled at me, and went upstairs. He came down with it on, and it looked gorgeous. The exchange continued, of jewelry and trinkets, everything more beautiful than the next. Elvis was grateful for all the gifts that people gave him. He saved his greatest expression of gratitude for the smaller, less expensive gifts. When he opened the present from his cousins Jean Smith and his wife Louise, he seemed totally thrilled by the set of heavy oak clothes hangers. "Now this is something I could use." And he kept showing them off to all of his guests. "I really do appreciate these. I love them." Elvis had a way of making everyone feel special that night. But I will say that I had the most special Christmas that year, all because of my friend Elvis. I rode down the winding driveway in the front seat with Elvis Presley driving and me sitting there by him in blue jeans. The lawn in the front of the house was beautiful. All the Christmas lights had been put up and turned on before Elvis came back from California. His mother and dad wanted them burning when he arrived home.